Hi there. Welcome back to the Rare Book Views channel, where I talk to you about how much I love books and collecting and reading and libraries and bookstores. If you love those things, please do me a favor, drop me a line, let me know what you're collecting and interested in. I love hearing what everyone is hunting for. I'm going on a treasure hunt today. I'm going to go to one of my very favorite bookstores. I've been there a bunch and talked about it a bunch. It is a warehouse. It is giant. It is disorganized. It is a great time. I have a bunch of wish lists today. I have lists for my friends that are looking things for their kids who are just back in school, so it's time to do school reading projects. I have a list from a friend of mine who lives overseas and is looking for stuff to read. He's really interested in spy novels, adventure, stuff like that, which should be pretty easy to find in good condition used. So I'm really happy to have that project. I'm always looking for various collectible versions of the books that I love. So we'll just have to go see what we can find. Let's go take a look. Okay, this was a really fun trip. It's pretty hot out, and I always forget that this place does not have air conditioning. But I did have a grand time, and I bought kind of a lot of books. I spent more than I usually do, so I feel like that's a mark of success, right? That's a good sign. I found one book for my friend who's looking for stuff to read in English. He lives overseas. The Catcher Was a Spy. This is a great book. It's fascinating and is a movie. So I read this when it was new, and I think he'll really like it. This is really cool. It's a really nice binding of Andersen's fairy tales. It looks really neat. I have not seen this one before. I did a little research. It is illustrated. It is the kind of text that I don't really love. It's got some small font, but the illustrations are really neat. So I'm on the fence about this one. Is this going to get added to my collection? No. TBD. This one for sure I am keeping. Arthur Rackham, The Wonder Book by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is beautiful. It's in very nice condition. It has these great tipped in illustrations that are beautiful. And let's see, does it have a date? I actually don't know. It's got an inscription from 1940. It is not dated, but it is early. This is the New York. It says Duran. This is not the British edition, but it is quite nice. And I paid $65 for this, which is a chunk for me, because if you watch this, you know I'm quite frugal. This, though, I splashed out because I know that this sells for a lot more than that. I do have a copy of this, but this one is in nicer condition, so I'm upgrading. I got some Jane Austen, which is exciting. I've never seen this edition before. Illustrated by John Austen. And seriously illustrated. And then some really weird, the sort of color illustrations in the text. I've never seen this one before, so I'll have to research what it is. I have a nice set of Jane Austens, but I have a friend at work who asked me for Austens. That's one of the things on her list. So we'll see if she wants this one. And then I also got folios, which is quite the coup. These are not in pristine condition, but they're very neat. I love folios in general. And these are Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Northanger Abbey. So really, the headlines, the big ones. I paid not very much for these, just about $5. They have engravings. They have interesting end papers. And they're, it looks like they're 50s. There were different versions of these, and it is a puzzle because Folio reissued these a few times. So if you buy them one by one, it can be a little hard to get them all the same. I had this edition before in individual volumes, and then I actually found one. The one I have right now on my shelf is one slipcase in all 7 volumes, I think. And I'll put a link to the tour of my library, and then you can see it there. It's huge to take down as one big thing. So I think these are really nice, and I think my friend at work is going to want these. I only paid $5 or $6 for these, which is a bargain. Folio Jane Austens, I think normally would sell for about $20 give or take, and Pride and Prejudice usually more because that is the big one. This is really cool. I got some Tarzans. I don't collect Tarzans, but I always pick them up when they're vintage because I like to know more about them. And one of the ways that you can learn is by selling them to find out. There's 2 different publishers here. One is, this is crazy, Burroughs, because Mr. Burroughs was a genius, and he took over his copyright and he printed them himself. He established his own publisher in his own town of Tarzana, which I think is fantastic. There's 2 here that say they were published by Burroughs Press, and they have illustrations, and they've got this frontis, and then it looks like they've got a couple more in the text, which I've never seen before. This is pretty early for him. These are earlier editions. So that'll be interesting to look into. And then, and these are Tarzan the Invincible and Jungle Girl. So one of the things that happens with his books, that he wrote a lot. He was prolific. And there's Tarzan, and then Tarzan, and then Tarzan, and Tarzan, and then sort of sci-fi. And so Jungle Girl, I'm guessing, is later. The collectors usually want the actual Tarzan ones. So we'll see what happens with those. And then I'll get to learn more about them. And then I have 2 more by McClurg. McClurg is based in England, and this was probably the first editions in England were this publisher, and in some titles it was the first edition at all. These, the owner wrote first edition on the copyright page, and I get to research and find out if that's true. These were all the Tarzan books, the Burroughs. I think I paid $5 or $6 for them, and I think they're probably worth a few dollars more than that, but I honestly just want to know more about them. But his publishing is fascinating. I got some Carolyn Keene. Carolyn Keene also fascinates me because she was not a real person. This is the Dana Girls series. Of course, Carolyn Keene is far more famous for the Nancy Drew books, but there was a series called the Dana Girls, and people who collect like these as well, and this is a vintage copy, and it was a grand total of $2. And these are actually sometimes more rare and sought after. It depends on which number it is. This one's number 20, which is a little bit later in the series, so it might be good. But this, again, I kind of just like to buy them and sell them to find out how much they're worth and do a little more research about them. Carolyn Keene was a staff of writers who all went by the same pseudonym, and I also think that's fascinating. This is a cool edition. I got 4 Nancy Drews that are this format, the blue and orange. I think this is really funny. The silhouette of Nancy Drew, and on the end papers in these books, at this point they were orange. She has high heels, just super practical for solving mysteries. And later they gave her flats. But at this point, she had high heels. I have a friend who has an actual printed guide called the Fair Guide, which is the authority on how to figure out which edition these are. So I called her up, and then there's these things about, in the back, there's these different points of, there's book lists of the other series that the Gross and Dunlap is the publisher, and then these other children's series or different series and authors for young girls. So there's advertisements in the back, and they changed over time. So you can tell which edition it is based on what are the lists in the book and how many books are on the book list in the series in the front versus the back. So she helped me figure it out. All 4 of these are from the 1940s, right around 1940, 1939 for all 4 of them. So I paid $2.50 for these. They didn't have a price on them. So when I asked the cashier or the bookseller, and they thought it over because I was buying a lot of other things, I think they gave me a pretty good deal. So I paid $10 for these. I know they're worth more than that, but I will really enjoy trying to find out what they're really worth. The other thing I found, I'm so excited about this, I found 2 P.L. Travers Mary Poppins books. These are great because they are the original publisher. These are Raynal and Hitchcock. This is the original publisher in the United States, but this publisher did have a house in England. So I'm always fascinated by Raynal and Hitchcock, and I love this style. This is old-timey. The writing goes the other way. So normally you can put your head to the side and read the title, but you have to go the other way for these. I love it. I have several copies of Mary Poppins, but I had a feeling these might be better. These might be upgrades. I suffer from this. Do other people do this? Do you find a copy and think, oh, this might be better than the one I have? Maybe I should buy this just in case. That's collecting. Okay, so I went back and checked. And these were, how much did I pay for these? $10 and $5, because this one has a chunk of the spine missing. So Mary Poppins comes back. This is the copy that I have. This is a much later copy, and it is Hardcore Brace and World, which was the later printer, and it has this, it's a Disney movie. Disney collectors want this version, but I want the earlier version, so I will definitely keep this one that I just got. I actually don't know how much I paid for this one. I think I got this with other books at an auction, but I'm pretty cheap, so I'm sure I paid $10 or less for this one, and I paid $10 for this. I'll keep this one. And then Mary Poppins opens the door. I don't know what to do about this. I have a Raynal and Hitchcock. This is the one that I bought. This spine has an issue. This one is good. The edition is confusing. So on the one that I bought today, and this is true of the Raynal and Hitchcocks in general, on the copyright page, it gives a printing right here. So it says 5th printing, which I think in this case means it is a 1st edition 5th printing where they ran out of books and just reran them. A 2nd edition would be if they made a change to it. So I think this is the original printing, and it's got these cool, this cutout star effect on the dust jacket. These are the originals. I don't have a Raynal and Hitchcock of the 1st of Mary Poppins, but I have several others. So looking at the edition, the one that I have, which has a nicer dust jacket, it doesn't have an edition listed, so I think it's, or printing, I think it's just later. And I wondered, could it mean it's a 1st if it doesn't have one listed at all? But my other ones don't really solve that problem. So what would you do? Would you keep the one that has no printing listed and is Raynal and Hitchcock and has a nice spine? Or would you keep the one that says, what did it say, 4th or 5th? 5th printing, but is missing some spine? Which one? You tell me. They both have an issue on the back. I don't know. I can't decide. But I'm definitely keeping the Mary Poppins Comes Back. And I'm keeping this great Rackham with the tipped in, the Wonder Book. So, and I found a book for my friend, and I found books for my friends at work. I had a great trip. What a great haul. So lots of books, lots of success. Really good day. I can't wait to read. So please let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you think. Let me know which book I should keep. Thanks so much. Happy reading.